If you don't want to win, don't go to war. And if you go to war, use enough force to win and get it over with.
What we're starting to see is an extraordinary partnership forming on the ground between coalition forces and Iraqi forces.
A partnership, Doctor, if I could interrupt you there, a partnership that very few people really believe is working. I mean, you've said to say that the surge is failing is absurd, but should we see you as an objective analyst or an apologist? Because after all, you and your husband, as I understand it, have actually been credited, if that's the word, with the architecture of this whole surge plan.
I certainly hope that you will take my credentials and my Iraq reports on their own terms.
This is becoming a military sinkhole, costing the US around $2 billion a week, on average something like 3 American lives a day. This whole war has radicalized this region instead of democratizing it, and we're seeing the enemies that America came to target, principally Iran and Al-Qaeda, emboldened as a result of this war and not weakened.
We'd like to have us believe that the Iranians are going to be the provocation.
They can't start a world war. You need to have world military powers to do that, and that's Russia and the United States. I can't see either of them moving to a world war over Iran.
As a person with your background, a military background, a highly decorated military background, now working with an organisation trying to stop conflict, how do you reconcile those two things? To an outsider, it seems like a strange organisation for someone like yourself to be.
Really, you think people military were people who wanted to start conflicts?
No, I was just wondering how...
No, but do you think that?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah. If our leaders said to you the real reason we didn't want to see you, we weren't sure whether we wanted to see you, is because we were afraid of upsetting the Chinese, in your wonderful Buddhist fashion, what would you say to them?
Okay. That's their business. And furthermore, my visit here and most sort of other visits, not politically.
Sometimes people, because women speak softer, and I'm a patient kind of woman, I'm not hysterical and so on, so I'm not screaming to everybody. People read sometimes as weakness, and not at all. I have another kind of leadership, you know.
Maybe Anwar Ibrahim's time has come and gone. You've had your moment.
Yeah, that's what the ruling party would like to believe. If that is so, then
I didn't talk to them before I said that, by the way.
Why the curbs? Why the restrictions? Why the complete ban in the media? Why use the courts? Why use the police?
I'm talking to a man here who actually said that Sinn Féin weren't fit.
That's right.
To partner decent people.
That's right.
That you'd rather sup with the devil.
That's right.
Than deal with Jerry Adams.
That's right.
Over your dead body,
That's
would you deal with them? So what has happened?
Well, I realized personally that the only way we could change the situation is to put up requirements that they must bow to.
Does Jerry Adams wake up these days feeling both safer and satisfied?
Well, I wake up feeling satisfied, but I have yet to feel safer.
I have problems with the word deal because it gives the impression that we would be supporting dictatorship, and that's not my agenda. My party and I are very interested in facilitating a transition to democracy.
How do you react then when you hear an American who advises George Bush saying we must be clear with General Musharraf that if Pakistan won't take out Al-Qaeda, the US will?
It's another moronic statement coming out of US, the sort of moronic statements that got them stuck in Iraq, where there are more than 900,000 people have been butchered because of the most foolish invasion, where they thought they would be greeted with garlands.
You say that Hamas are undermining democracy. But weren't they legitimately elected more than a year ago?
There's a misunderstanding. Democracy is not just holding elections and then thinking you have absolute power and that you can erase all history and that history begins the day you win. I don't think that anything justifies resorting to violence, starting a civil war in order to get what you think is rightfully yours.
Mugabe thinks that by embarking on a campaign against the opposition, the opposition will disappear. It will not disappear. We have the support of the people. And we've had the support of the people for change for the last 7.5 years. And nothing is going to do to decapitate the organization.
Well, there is this stereotype of the rich man who, because he's rich, he thinks he's clever or he's wise. And so I have to live with that.
Do you think that you're clever and wise?
I do, actually. I think that I may be an exception.
You're almost left with a choice between becoming a killer, which you did, or being killed.
That is not much of a choice, but yes, in short, that's what it is. You either, kill or you're killed. Yep. And even not only that, not only killing the other part, whoever they determine the enemy, but if you didn't carry out what the commanders wanted you to do, they will kill you.
When you talked about how you described the prophet, you also said he was a tyrant, a perverse man, against free speech, a megalomaniac who reminded you of people like Bin Laden and Khomeini and Saddam. That could be seen has been seen by your critics as provocative, as inciting extremists in Islam, and possibly having the opposite effect of what you wanted to have.
But they don't say I'm wrong, do they?
What would your gratuitous advice be to John Howard and his government, or Australia generally, at this point in time where we seem to have been dragging the chain?
I'd say, man, you've got a lot to make up for. You've been really blind to this and in denial for so long, and now your country is drying up before your very eyes.
You said under George Bush that everything had gone upside down. In fact, the economy, you said, has gone to shit, which I'm sure is a technical term.
Yes, it's a complicated economic term taught in economic schools.
With Downer, we'd sent a boy on a man's errand for years to try and deal with these countries. Of course, North Asia is the most dangerous part of the world.
Let's not forget the curse of George Bush. Every single ally of George Bush has been politically doomed. Silvio Berlusconi of Italy, Aznar of Spain, they've all lost elections. Tony Blair is doomed. I think we're probably counting out John Howard as a result of this one. Any friend of George Bush's is on the way down.
His line is that he is so absolutely convinced that what George Bush is doing is correct, he's going to support him to the political death.
Well, I'm not even sure Laura Bush is doing that.
Well, I want to know, does Roe...
There we have it. And by this time on Saturday, we should know whether or not the curse of George Bush has actually struck here in Australia.